my day off. I read it on my day off. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, we got a lot to talk about in a very short amount of time. So, again, going right into it, U.S. Border Patrol agent perished in the line of duty with a Vermont traffic stop. Retired Border Patrol Chief Chris Clem discusses a record number of migrants crossing into the United States northern border on Fox and Friends weekend. They say that a Department of Homeland Security said that a Border Patrol agent was shot and killed during a traffic stop in Coventry, Vermont on Monday at 3:15 p.m. Coventry is near the U.S.-Canada border. During the traffic stop, 2 suspects were in the car. Officials confirmed that one of the suspects perished. Of course, with this going on, there's been a ton of different stories coming out. In fact, it's kind of odd how many are coming out about ever since we started pushing back on the border. There's been a lot more pushback on the Border Patrol, a lot more injuries, a lot more perishing officers, if you catch my drift. And I think it's only the beginning, especially after today, the president has now declared the cartels a terrorist organization. So we're going to talk about that and much, much more on today's show. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. And again, remember, today we're going to be talking about as well everything that just happened today. So nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, thank you guys. And by the way, there was a lot of issues right there, and I'll tell you why. We're going to show you a video of something that is, it made me laugh. So we'll show you that here in a second. But first of all, Vladimir Putin. Let's bring my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, do you want to talk about Vladimir Putin on TV delivering an address pleading to the president not to go to war, to not do anything that would cause World War III?
Yeah, I mean, on this day when we've got the big inauguration happening, the 60th with the 47th president, Vladimir is on Russian television appealing to the Don, asking us not to go to World War III, but of course congratulating him on his win. He's, quote, "We hear statements that need to prevent World War III. We undoubtedly welcome such a disposition and congratulate the U.S. president," Putin said in a televised session from the Russia Security Council. He emphasized the potential of rebuilding relations with the U.S. following the Don and his team talking about reestablishing communications as Moscow continues to wage the conflict in Ukraine. So Putin said that he had heard that the Don and his team's statements on their wish to restore direct contacts with Russia. Now, keep in mind, direct contacts, as if, you know, the previous administration, JB, basically had no conversation. They never would talk to Putin. So he said that Moscow's never turned down this dialogue and highlighted that the U.S.-Russia relations should be based on equality and a mutual respect. So, you know, it's interesting, though, you think about the campaign promises, so to speak, from T-Man, and what he had suggested was, hey, I'll have the UKR conflict over by the time I take office. Well, that didn't actually happen, but it doesn't mean he doesn't really have that kind of power either. I think he was just being very ambitious when he spoke about that. But it certainly seems there's been this obvious change. Like, we saw Russia just go on an all-out onslaught for the last 20 days or so, trying to get as much in as they could before this big day. And we expect, because we've heard from both Zelensky and now Putin numerous times has said this, that they're willing to negotiate an end to this. So it sounds like that will be on the table in the not too distant future. But we'll have to see, because negotiations always require both sides to agree. And if they don't agree, then the conflict will continue.
So a couple things. World War II happened when we were in peace talks with Japan. At least the Pearl Harbor incident did. There's all sorts of side theories about what happened and who knew about it and who had prior warning and everything else. Same goes for right now. There's been more warnings on the table and more emails and more internal kind of memos saying that something bad is going to happen. Of course, over the last 3 weeks, they say 2025. There's apparently, through open source information, Sarah Adams says that there's going to be coordinated attacks on the U.S., across the U.S., at least 1,000 to 1,500 involved, and in Europe. All of this is happening. Meanwhile, the majority of people right now that are rooting for the dawn and this new presidency, they are really seeing everything happen and everything is looking very peaceful. But if this is to go down, how far would the dawn have to go to actually bring peace? Well, I believe since now he does listen to the constituents, or at least he does care about what people think about him, he does care about what the people think about him, he is not going to just be sending off billions and billions of dollars continually to Zelensky. And everyone knows once Zelensky runs out of money, this would have been over years ago. This would have been over 2 years ago if we weren't sending NATO infrastructure into it. But then again, could NATO send stuff without us? Not really, because the rest of NATO's military prowess is not anything compared to the U.S.'s. And how much could they send to really make a difference, and how long could they do it? No one has sent as much as we have. But is that money that was sent over, is that already gone? I'm assuming there's a few people over there with mansions and supercars instead of, attackums. So probably. So how fast will this end, and what will it end in? Will that mean that all of a sudden T-Man is going to say, hey, you take this chunk of the country, we call it good? Zelensky, hey, bud, we can't give you money forever, and you guys can't do this on your own. Or is a third option where NATO goes, okay, well, if you guys aren't going to give them money, if you're not going to continue to help them, we already invested all of this, we're going to start giving them troops. We're going to start sending French troops in. We're going to start sending in Polish troops. We cannot do this. This is Europe. This is our land. They get in a full-scale war without the U.S. involved. Remember, U.S. is going to be all peace, and hey, we do this. But then all of a sudden, all of our NATO start getting involved. All of our NATO allies get involved, and then we have to get involved. Say then T-Man says, well, we're pulling out of NATO. Think about the craziness that will happen because of that too. So there's really, even if we are good with Putin, that doesn't mean that that's going to bring world peace. The rest of NATO is still on this. They're still on this tip. They're still on the resources there. Maybe the Dawn says, oh, there's all these resources there. Well, guess what? The Dawn is looking at this and going, wait, we have resources here. We don't need their soil. We don't need that. We have plenty of stuff that we could find here. I can negotiate better deals with other countries. So what is actually going to happen here? I have a feeling that there's going to be a war over in Europe and with Russia, no matter what the U.S. does. And who knows? Maybe he could organize, give them a huge chunk of the territory. But again, that would be bending the knee to Russia. But I don't know. It's kind of seems like Don is wants more so to get a peace award. He's more shooting for a Nobel Peace Prize. What if there was peace and they did give them all of the Russian speaking parts? Maybe everybody would agree with that. But right now, this was a quote by their side. Peskov said, no special conditions are needed for this. What is required is the mutual intent for political will to have a dialogue, which we haven't done. up in the last 4 years, there's been a lot of changes made, especially in the globe, to try to keep the two sides, at this. Remember, all of these companies that make weapons, they don't want this to stop. So not only did he just make the cartels, probably, ring about way funded by three-letter agencies, his enemy today, but if he does end up finding some sort of peace with Russia, he's also going to be on the enemy list of all of the people that own stocks in the military-industrial complex. So this is going to be a very rocky presidency, and a lot of people have said over and over, that they're praying for him because they believe something a lot similar to what happened to Reagan and what happened to JFK and what happened to him is going to happen again. So, yeah, this whole thing, a lot of people are high on hope, and I don't believe it. I think that something is right under our noses, and people are going to be flashed with hope, and then the rug is going to be pulled out from underneath us. Something's going to happen. There's way too much money involved in this for there not to be. All right, and then, and then Hamas frees 3 Israeli hostages under Gaza ceasefire deal. Dex, do you want to cover this? And again, I'm going to grab a backup battery here.
Sure. So as the Don had said, hey, this deal had to get done before he took office. And of course, it was a little rocky at the end of last week, as we reported. We went one day saying the deal was done. Then we came in another day and said that they were backing off because they had some issues. And then finally, I think on Friday, we reported that, yes, they finally did sign the deal. So the first batch, I guess, if you want to call it that, or at least as they're describing in this article, the Red Cross delivered the first batch of hostages out of the Strip and into Israeli custody on Sunday. So this is after the ceasefire between the two has now taken effect. Israel exchanged dozens of Palestinian prisoners for 3 female hostages, Romy Gonen, Doron Steinbrecher, and Emily Damari. The 3 women were said to be in good health, although I can't imagine they're in great mental shape. They are the first of 3 hostages to the first of 33, hostages that are set to be released over the first phase of the ceasefire. So it's set to last 5 weeks. In exchange, Israel's agreed to release 90 prisoners back as well. So all of the agreements seem to be moving forward. So the first batch has come through, and there will be more coming through, and the ceasefire is now underway.
Now, Dex, these prisoners, that seems kind of like an uneven trade here. So 33 hostages for 90 Palestinians. Now, do we know exactly why all 90 Palestinians are there? Do we know?
We don't know. I'm sure they have reasons for it, but it probably does seem an unfair number. But I think the amount I don't know how much it really matters at this point if it gets the deal done, right?
33
that's sort of
too.
the way I'm looking at it. There's a lot that is this. The number may be off balance, but the amount of toll that has been taken by that organization and the people that live in that area of the Strip is just, unfathomable. So I think that the weight there could easily be made up from a lot of other things.
Okay, but so they chose 33 is not all of them, correct? So
no, I think that's what's left. There's
So, and then the 90 Palestinian prisoners, are some of these that were Palestinians that were in Israel that got arrested for other things, and they're just in general negotiating for any kind of Palestinian that's in prison?
It's probably more of the important ones to them, probably fighters and things like that.
Are these the fighters that were involved in the day that it all went down? That's
great question.
Yeah. So, yeah, this whole thing is just so messed up in general. And then we have, before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. No matter what happens, it's really good to have an emergency kit with not only medicines, but especially antibiotics. Jace is a really, really easy service you can use from your phone, from the comfort of your couch. And you can get a kit sent right to your door from a quick appointment with a board-certified doctor on a telehealth appointment. It's very simple to use. You'll get this kit with all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics, Plus, you can add on things like albuterol, emergency inhalers, and other important medicines that you can throw in there. So there's a whole list of add-ons. I would also check out for anybody that is a caregiver or has a dependence on any kind of medication that they have to take every day. Go over and check out Jace Daily. That's a 12 months extended supply of prescription meds. Now, I hope that not too many people think that just because I love all the hope flying around, but every time that there's been this much hope, somebody has pulled the rug from out under us. And I think that people really need to stay prepared and prepare for the next big event. And the next big event, I believe, is World War III. No matter how much peace talk there is, I just don't believe it. And again, people will hate on me for that. But again, I think that a lot of the preppers here have seen it time and time again, where we're at our highest peak of peace and everything is good, and then it all goes to crap. In fact, felt very familiar to how it was last time, when everything was great and everything was cheap and everybody was making good money compared to what we had to spend. Then we had 4 years of absolute hell. So that's not exactly over yet. Dex, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, like this whole TikTok thing going on, all the hopium around that. I mean, look, imagine, I've got a prediction. A prediction is, they talked about Elon early on about potentially buying it, and then that was the same time that the Don had spoken to Xi, right? And he had a pre inauguration day conversation with Xi about a handful of topics, one of them being TikTok. Then he comes out and says, I'm going to give a 90-day extension. Then he comes out and says, we're going to find a solution where they buy it. There's this whole notion that Elon's building this everything app, right? Like the everything app is the same thing that's in China called WeChat, where they control everybody through full-on censorship through the everything app. Imagine if, somehow the deal goes through and X and TikTok can become one because he's part of the program or part of the acquisition, puts up some money along with some of these other big investors that are wanting to put money into it. And it just molds together a whole youthful young audience, which is billions of people on TikTok, into this platform that becomes the everything app with the new payments that are coming on. And before we know it, we've just slow boiled ourselves into, the social credit score, one app that rules it all, controlled and even owned, if the Don is saying what he's saying, owned 50% by the American government.
It's straight a episode of Black Mirror. I just want to point out, an everything app would not be X doing their own video platform. An everything app would be where you go to X, you download that app, you have Facebook on one tab, you have a video tab, which is this one, you have a 60-second clip tab, that's TikTok. You have, of course, Instagram on one tab. That would be an everything app. If you had all of these, and all of these social media people were all sitting next to each other. You had Jeff Bezos watch, there's the news tab provided and sponsored by Bezos or something. What if he is rich enough? What if Elon could somehow make a financial deal where they go, hey, this is going to make everybody money. It's going to keep everybody on your platforms at the same time. We're all happy, where everything is absorbed or combined into one. And every phone goes out with X. And every phone has all of these things kind of built into it. And in so, they have this payment processing that goes seamlessly from one thing to the next. And I don't even think that would be the end of it. I think it would be on demand and Comcast, and everything would be in one place. I think that would be solving a lot of goals for the kind of global groups as well. So I wouldn't be too surprised if these money-hungry corporations all say, hey, let's team up, because they're already teamed up. Look at the people on their boards. There are people on their boards or on the other boards and on the other boards. They could quickly get this done if they combined and they all went the same direction. Now, I know that a lot of people, this is almost blasphemous, but we have been tricked our whole lives. And what if we are part of the biggest trick ever right now? That's why we always just got to keep asking questions. We can never let your guard down to the point where you're like, oh, now everything's fine. Every time you do, that's when something bad happens. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and if you think about it, like the whole revolution or evolution of social media, it's not over, but it is over. Like everybody's on the internet, and now everybody's on one form of social media. You're either on X, you're on Facebook if you're really old, or some of you aren't really old and you're on Facebook. It's okay. We'll let it slide. And you've got people on TikTok, you've got people on the tube here, you've got people everywhere, right? So it's not necessarily about that anymore. I think when you look at these tech giants, they're all looking at the next wave of their billions of dollars are going to come from AI. It's not about social media adoption. It's not like Zuckerberg's over there going, how am I going to pump $20 billion out of Facebook? He's already got Facebook. He's already tapped it. They already made it. It went up. It peaked. It started to fall. Now it's in what you call sort of this land of, how do you manage it and maintain it? So if you think about how this world may evolve, where these social platforms either come together or you go down a path of an everything app, it now comes down to the finances, and it comes down to this ecosystem that brings it together. Because it's not about some major innovation in social media technology that's all of a sudden going to connect more people together and we're all going to jump to it. That's already happened. That's over. I think they're all looking at AI and they're thinking, how do I, those guys are standing there all saying we're here for the AI money, and we can handle that social media stuff because it's been around. It's sort of like table stakes now. They'll put it all together, make something happen, and put in the censorship that they need to, or whatever controls they need to for the government, whether or not they're it goes as far as say China does. But what'll be controlling all of that is the AI, and that's what they're building. And I think that's where they're looking for their innovation, not necessarily the next Facebook.
And as far as let's go over to the chat here real quick. Let's see here. Randy Man. Yeah, I don't know if it says that you're 100. I don't know if I am. But one thing I will say is that I think that we all have to keep questioning. I think that we all have to really not just believe everything, even if it does seem like the most, likely answer. At this point, anything can happen. Right now, there are just so many things that are lining up. And at the same time, there's the solution being put on a platter. Anytime that happens, you got to question if something nefarious is happening. One thing that I hear too is this constant call for deregulation. And they say regulation. And it's gotten to the point where everybody that has followed has said, yeah, deregulation. But there is a certain thing. It's so funny that they will say, hey, we need regulation on this, but we don't need regulation for that. Elon said, hey, we need regulation for AI. We need to calm this down. Meanwhile, again, he was invested in that company, said, hey, don't, and then it went on its own. He wants them regulated, but at the same time says, hey, SpaceX, we don't need regulation. Regulation is going to be the end of us. So it's all in the personal interest. And meanwhile, there's all these things that I agree with on Elon's platter that I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And it's so much, it makes you so blind to the other things that are going on. When you really are pumped, and even if you like somebody, one thing I know for years is if somebody doesn't like me, they're not going to listen to anything beyond my message. They're just not going to like me. If they like me, they might overlook something that is a flaw of mine. It goes with any creator. You see people that love a creator and they'll just totally overlook anything, right? But at the same time, if they dislike him, they'll find any little reason they can to pick at him. I'm neither place with Elon or T-Man or any of them. But I will point out there's things that I've pointed out with the Don, like when he said, take the weapons first and then go to court later. That's crazy. If some neighbor calls the police and says, hey, that guy's got weapons and you need to take him away, that's what they will do. Under the flag laws that we're going through, that's not okay in my book. And then you would have to go to court, and you had a certain time to prove you're not crazy or to prove that you're not a danger to get your stuff back. See, I don't think that's due process. I don't think I think that's backwards. So I've pointed that out. That was years ago when he said that, and I'll point that out when that happens. So in this next 4 years, people really need to point out the actions and really pull the people out of it. Like, what are the actions that are happening, and really call out the actions. and not be afraid to speak their mind, especially since this is so much of a thing that's being said now that we could speak our mind. We should be able to speak our mind, especially about what's happening. And don't feel fearful that somebody's going to judge you for your opinion. We need to go back to how we used to be, where you could say, I voted for this person, I voted for that person, and it was okay. I don't know how we get back to that point, but we need to get back to that point. Because it shouldn't be divided straight down the middle. It should be on both sides, be able to have a conversation without taking each other's heads off. Or never talking to each other ever again. That's stupid. Thank you, Neil Nelson. Thank you for gifting out memberships. Super appreciated. Thank you for supporting Independent. Appreciate that. Thank you. Kat, thank you for the super. I appreciate you. Kat, not only that, and thank you for everybody that made it to this very late show. Sorry, you guys. It was, I've had a lot of stuff going on with my tooth appointments, so I appreciate all of you. And then Baron Saturday, and I will tell you, we are a couple minutes late from the last show because I had to clear cookies, and I cleared the wrong ones because I have to show you this video here in a second. I could only watch it. I watched about 5 seconds of it, and then realized it wouldn't pop up again. I wanted to watch it live with you guys because I thought it was over the top hilarious and awesome in a way. It is the new whitehouse.gov video. So we'll show you that here in a second. Don't go there. You'll see it. So just hold off. I know everybody pops onto a new window. Just don't. Let me show you here in a second. Baltic Sea map shows, and don't tell anybody. Everybody knows in the chat that already seen it. Don't tell anybody. Be good. Don't ruin this surprise. Okay, Baltic Sea map shows NATO flotilla deployed to guard undersea cables. This is exactly what I said should happen, and now it's happening. I quote, and I was just as a stupid person going, hey, well, if these things are under such danger, why aren't they sitting there guarding them? Dex, do you remember just like a week and a half ago I was saying, well, why don't they just guard all of the most important things and put a flotilla there? And I said probably because, there's only so many ships.
Exactly.
What are they doing right now?
Well, yeah, you're spot on. They've deployed a flotilla.
And this is NATO deploying this flotilla off the coast of Estonia to guard critical undersea communications cables amid fears of potential sabotage by foreign actors. A Baltic Sea map shows the mission, dubbed Baltic Sentry, is in response to destabilizing acts observed in the area recently. U.S. General Christopher Cavoli, Supreme Allied Commander, Europe said, Newsweek has contacted Russia's foreign ministry for comment by email. The move will further strain tensions between Russia and NATO amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. And you know what I just realized, since my eyes are blazing into my head, what those cookies also took away? Night mode. Oh my gosh, this is so bright. I am about to go blind here. Snow blindness. I just realized that that's not there. So, Dex, as far as they're now protecting they can't be in all places at once. So you can't really protect all of these. Why did they go to this very specific area? Because of the prior attacks? What do you think?
Yeah, it's either not only it's because of the prior attacks. I think it's that. It's also there's obviously a lot of cables in that area. They're not going to hang out where there's not cables. But it's also where a lot of the Russian ships will come through that area. So if this last one was done by a Russian ship, then it makes sense to pay attention to the Russian ships that are coming through. Dragging anchors.
Yeah, so it's crazy how simple it can be to cause so much havoc. I mean, look at this last week. We've talked about this. You don't need a plane to crash into a building to cause a lot of damage. You need a windstorm and a lighter. All right, let me show you this video. And some people might be offended by this. But some people might be absolutely just blown away on, in my opinion, this is actually pretty awesome. This is like almost a troll status. Okay, so Dex showed me this, and I did not know about this yet. So I only watched 5 seconds, and immediately I said, no, I gotta get this live. I could not believe just the first 2 seconds of it. This is whitehouse.gov. And I'm hoping I have to click sound, and I have to make sure that I have myself in here, so it's fair you say. Okay, let's go to it. This whole video is probably going to get dingled from that. I'm going to turn down the music. It's got the most epic music, too. An eagle. Him saluting. Now, this whole show is probably dinged because of that, but I had to show you. That is literally the whitehouse.gov, and it only plays on the first time. So after that, you can refresh as many times as you want. You can clear it from your history. It won't pop up again. It's, again, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is freaking awesome. I've never seen that with the president. I've never seen them do a video like that. And again, I've never heard of that happening. Dex, go ahead.
It's the difference between a politician and politics and a television personality, like a producer. Like, this guy knows what, I mean, like, look at all the rally. I mean, look, he brought what they called the inaugurational parade today that would have been outside, but it was so cold. So he brought it into a stadium, and in the stadium, he had the parade. But then at the end of it, what did he do? He had a desk set up, and in front of 20,000 people and on live TV, he starts signing executive orders. Like, it was part of a show. This guy is showman. So keep that. I mean, we all know it. We've seen it. We saw him do it last time. So it is, yeah, you're never going to see any other president in the past that's been like this. But, maybe Reagan could have been close to it because he had the Hollywood ties. But yeah. He is all about the pomp and circumstance.
Wages World says it's interesting they show him signing executive orders, the pen as a weapon, LOL. And it's got his signature on it. It's like the Donald. It's like, boom, that pen is the most powerful pen in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, and they were shouting for it in the audience. Everybody's like, give me a pen, Mr. President Trump. And he was literally at the end, he was chucking them out in the audience like he was throwing T-shirts out.
See, I would have yelled, the pen is mightier. But again, that's just me. And the 5 people that got that joke. All right. So, yeah, I was blown away because the first time I had the sound way up. I was testing sound. So he said, go to whitehouse.gov. And I had it on full blast. So it was super loud. And it was like, like American Eagles flying by. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I gotta stop this, man. This is, and then I realized, like, live that, they probably used some sort of stupid music on that. So if you're watching this in the future, we might have taken that out. But hopefully they used some, Library of Congress something or other. All right. So I thought it was pretty funny. I've never seen, and this is the thing, nobody ever complained about being entertained over the last time, and I don't think that that's going to be an issue. Hopefully, though, we do not have an issue where we are in a some sort of tragedy, right? If the day where he was at his rally went a little bit differently, if he didn't turn his head, I think that we would have all been currently in a civil conflict. That's how bad it got, and that's how much of, everything was at that peak. And because that failed, the next one failed. Do you think that there's going to be a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th? I personally do, and that's this thing that scares me. They've totally kicked up the security, but what if 6 months goes by and they lax at one point, or they miss one little thing? That's all it takes. And the scariest part is in both things, you have people that are close to him that were most likely involved. I mean, nobody knew he was going to be at the club the second time. Nobody knew where he was going to be. His agenda was private. Only a couple people knew that he was going to be golfing, and that guy happened to get to a bush where he could have line of sight on him. Like, that's crazy. The roof, having the direct access ladder to the building, Secret Service with snipers didn't have people on top of that building. Supposedly they were in the building or something. Like, that just sounds so absurd. But, we went over all of that for probably a month. But, yeah, do you think that there's not going to be another slip-up? I hope not. Dex, go ahead.
Well, early in the show we talked about the hostages released in the Strip. He referred to another set of hostages today, those that were stuck for many years now in D.C. And he did sign that executive order. And matter of fact, the police or the jail in D.C. was getting overrun by people tonight, including the media, clamoring to see the first of these people getting released. And I think about 3 or 4 have come out since then. I guess they all will be coming out soon because he pardoned over 1,500 people with the stroke of that pen. So he pardoned about 1,500, and I think commuted a couple others that had already had sentences or something like that.
Yeah, no, everything is on kind of like a teeter-totter right now, and we'll see how it all goes. All right, and then let's go back into it. The Polish general fired after anti-tank mines were found in IKEA. And of course they were like, "Hey, you're fired." Again, this was not the place to find anti-tank mines, but apparently in Poland they do it a little bit differently. A Polish general was dismissed last week after the nation's defense minister was reportedly misplacing a batch of anti-tank mines that were later found in an IKEA warehouse, according to Polish news outlet Onet. Major General Arthur Kaczynski was fired January 9th for reasons that were not specified by the Polish military officials, though numerous local reports suggested that missing explosives were naturally the catalyst for his dismissal. June 2024, a train carrying more than 1,000 tons of explosives were improperly unloaded by the Polish troops, the report said, who mistakenly left the anti-tank mines to continue their railbound journey around the country until they were eventually offloaded into the furniture behemoth's warehouse. Kaczynski, meanwhile, reportedly kept his mishap from the superiors while furnishing subsequent supply reports that featured false numbers. And meanwhile, he was also furnishing his living room with furniture that you build yourself with horrible instructions. That approach appeared to have worked at least until an IKEA warehouse representative telephoned military officials and inquired about when they would collect their mines. That is something you just wouldn't expect.
That's going to be the greatest phone call ever made, right? When are you going to come get your mines out of our warehouse? Like, what are they doing here?
Yeah, when you, I have IKEA on line 3. They say that they have explosives for us. Yeah, apparently they were in back order. And also, on another note, General, they also have your Billy shelves in stock. I don't know. I think it's pretty crazy. And then we have 2 Iranian judges of death taken down in Tehran. Now, Dex, if you want to cover this, I was surprised that this didn't get as much coverage, but obviously big day today.
Well, yeah, I mean the news is complete. I mean you couldn't even get an ounce of news on any of the major channels today outside of the Inog, which is understandable. It's a big deal and a big event. But look, apparently an armed assailant fatally took out 2 of the notorious Iranian judges inside the Islamic Republic Supreme Court over the weekend. So. Judges Mohammad Maghashish and Ali Razini were known for ordering very harsh sentences. So obviously, probably had a target on them if they've done that, as many judges may have felt in their careers. But during their decades-long careers, such judges are known as the judges of perishing and the executioners, as they would call them here. So sorry for the wordplay, but we're still on a platform that we don't know how loose we can get nowadays. But look, Iran's judiciary said that it was a planned event. It was carried out by an armed infiltrator, and it was inside their Supreme Court building in the Capitol. So when you think about that, I mean, just imagine that in any other country, imagine that in our own country. I mean, also, when you think about this kind of stuff, you have to wonder who's behind it. Like, is it a lone person? But man, something like that was taken down in a building like that is pretty serious and pretty significant. You know, it could have been professional. It could have been outside. It could have been influenced by the outside. It could be part of a overall campaign, to destabilize Iran, or to embolden those that might want to rise up in Iran. And we've talked quite a bit about Israel and their push for what they would call, a change of leadership. And we've also seen America push for that as well. So if there is some sort of regime change in the future, and the three-letter agencies that are really good at that are constantly puppet stringing as many different factions and groups or people, or, assassins, if you want to, for that matter, then this could easily have been played out like that. But it could just be some person who's just upset over an extreme sentence given to a family member.
And by the way, over in chat, Dustin Royal, let's see here. Thank you for being here. We've got Sean C. Nice to see you. So by the fall, we could be having a funeral for a former president. Seems like some think it's possible. I don't think it's some. I think everybody is worried about that. Even if they hate the man, most people don't want to see him, taken out, because they understand what that would mean. I think that it would cause a civil disturbance. Easy. Disturbance would be putting it lightly. And nobody really wants to see that. Some may say that they want to see that, but I don't think that that is true. And then John Fedman and Lindsey Graham advocate for the destruction of Iran's nuclear program, which in itself is a giant deal. If this is something that, and it's such a weird team, John Fedman and Lindsey Graham, just shows you how some of these guys are on the same level, depending on the day and time. Incoming T-Man envoy, Ukraine and Russia, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg reacts to Russia's new strategic partnership with Iran on the story. Oh, okay. It says, I don't think diplomacy works, Graham declared during an interview on Face the Nation, calling Iran a religious Nazi regime that wants to destroy the state. I am hoping that there will be an effort by Israel to decimate the Iran nuclear program, supported by the United States, and if we don't, that it will be a historical mistake. Fetterman agreed with Graham's call on the decimation of Iran's nuclear program. 100%, the Democratic lawmaker declared in a post on X, in his boxers. Fetterman, an unwavering and outspoken supporter of Israel, has previously advocated for the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. Whatever remains of Iran's nuclear program needs to be destroyed, and I fully support efforts to do so, he declared in a tweet earlier this month in his sweats. Fetterman recently met with President-elect Donald, later describing the meeting as a positive experience in his hoodie. So, yeah, I'm surprised that these two are seeing eye to eye, but I'm not surprised because both of them, I believe, are heavily invested in a certain board. So, I know Graham is. I heard Fetterman was too. So this is the thing that bothers me, is war, and any kind of war is going to benefit a lot of these Congress people because they're all invested into all of the military-industrial complex. So you have to think about that every time you hear something like this, like something that if they take out their nuclear efforts, which is also in many people's eyes, if you're a devil's advocate, you look at it and you go, without nuclear power and without advancing this kind of thing, you're never going to get at the same level of country as other countries with it. So it's kind of like you're some look at it, and I'm assuming that they look at it there as you're capping the country, right? Whereas any others would look at this and go, well, we can't have them have nukes. They're crazy. They're going to do something crazy, and they're going to take the lives of millions of people if they're able to do this, or they will have tyranny power, as if it's something you would see on Captain Planet. Dex, as far as the taking out the Iranian nuclear programs, it's like surprising team up here.
Well, I mean, it's a hot topic for Israel. It's a hot topic for those that support them. I think both of these guys are strong supporters of them and probably are finding common ground there. Speaking of his clothes, he did wear shorts and a hoodie to the inauguration today. One of the only people that wasn't dressed well, aside from Bezos' wife, who was showing, or not wife, girlfriend, showing tons of cleavage, which everybody got caught looking at, including RFK and I think what's his name, Zuckerberg. Just some side notes there.
Who
Like,
was
you could just
who was wearing it?
it was Bezos' girlfriend. I don't remember her name, but
Oh.
she had a blazer that was very low cut and was revealing a lot. It was just so funny every time you'd see guys, and she took her jacket off at one point, and it was sort of like flaunting it all out there, and you could just see all the tech guys like, oh, look, boobies. I got to look,
Why
and
would
everybody got there's memes of that everywhere. So
he is so cocky, and even in person, and it's like, he thinks he looks cool. Like the guy, it's a billionaire, and that woman is not with him because he's so cool. They're with him because he's a billionaire. Like, you never see a billionaire pick somebody because of their personality. They always have these little trophy girl, and it's a girlfriend. How old is he? And he's still got a girlfriend. Like, no offense to anybody that's single, but he's a billionaire, and he's got a new 20-something girlfriend every other week, and he thinks that's cool. I think that's disgusting. If he had a 50-year-old woman by his side, a real woman, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But when you go 30 years younger, which that these girls are just, and that's the gross part, is that they're hypnotized by the money and the power, that they don't know any better. And so do the 50-year-old women too. I mean, it's just, but I think it's a skeezy thing. And he's making up for years of, not being able to get those. And so now he shows it off. Every place he goes, I've seen him show off his arm candy. And I just think it's so transparent, like what they're doing and how they think. But just my opinion. Hopefully it didn't offend too many.
Well, and I don't know if he's married to her or not. I said girlfriend, but I'm just assuming because I don't remember him getting married. I just remember him getting divorced. But look, the other thing that came up, there was one of the many press, not many, but one of the press opportunities. I think when the new president was signing in the Oval Office, he was signing again more executive orders. Like, guys, he went off into the Senate room right after the inauguration and signed a handful. Then he went to the arena and signed another handful in front of people. Then he went to the Oval Office and continued signing. He signed like 200 executive orders. It's insane. So, but while he was doing that, one of the reporters asked him about the drones and what happened. And he goes, "Are you going to tell us?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what it was." And they go, "Well, then tell us." And he goes, "Well, I just got here. I've only been here 15 minutes. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on." And he looked over to, I'm assuming, his head of the cabinet there and said, "Hey, go look into that and find out what's going on with those drones so that we can tell the people, because I'm going to tell everybody." So who knows? Maybe we'll find out in the coming days. Maybe it'll take, years, but maybe it'll only be a few days. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back and tell us what was really in the sky over New Jersey.
Sad Sky says, y'all didn't see anything about her boobs. She is an older woman. If she is, then hey, more power to him. His last girlfriend was 22, I think. Yeah, it was 22. What was his last one? Let's see what is going on here. Oh, okay, there we go. All right. Sorry, something is happening here. Yeah, why is that not? Huh. All right. Well, we don't need that anyways. All right. Before we move on to Kevin O'Leary's prediction of the golden share, do want to remind you, go check out EMP Shield. This is going to be your defense. This is going to allow your car to drive after an electromagnetic pulse attack from any adversary: Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, anyone who has the thought or the stupidity to attack us. You will have the protection against it. This device can be put in your car in less than 10 minutes, and can actually protect you and ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. There's only 3 wires to wire in: red to red on your battery, green, black to black on your battery, and green to ground or a part of your chassis. Then you just bolt it into an open spot and boom, you're done. It takes less than 10 minutes and it is a quick protection against one of the most likely attacks on our country. The first thing any country would try to do is take down our power and take down our communications. Again, hopefully that never happens, but if it does, you're protected. Not only that, something that will happen, it's a matter of when, not if, is a solar event. If we have a Carrington level event, you will be protected against that as well. This can actually ground that as well. So marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and then we have Kevin O'Leary warning TikTok's fate could be determined by secret golden share. Now, we went more in depth on this in over on Marfoogle News, and you can actually get a full message about this. But essentially, boiling down on how almost all of the Chinese-owned companies have a connection to Xi Jinping, and that no matter what it is, that they have a certain veto power over any company that is connected with China. So even if it does boil down to where this chunk is owned by the United States and this has happened, essentially there's really very little way to get Xi Jinping out of the picture. That there's something called, they call it a golden share, that is either a 1% or something, that basically all big decisions boil down and go up to the very, very top. I'm sure the little decisions aren't going across his desk on a daily basis, but the big ones probably are. And how can you actually get around that? Well, many people believe that that is not an option. So did T-Man save this TikTok because he really believed that it got him the votes and everything else? And honestly, a lot of people, how I heard that, I go, well, okay, it got you the votes, but that doesn't mean it's still a good platform. Like, there's no third term. Like, you're going to save it because it helped you out. Like, oh, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's a weapon. If it's a weapon, doesn't matter what it does positive, it's doing overall negative. It's a weapon. It is literally weaponized to divide us and to hurt us. And in general, most all of the stuff on there, at least the stuff that's catered by TikTok. Now, I know there's lots of great creators and there's lots of great people on TikTok, including some of my close friends are on there. But at the same time, they're not getting catered to be the viral videos at the very top. They're barely getting any attention at all. In fact, many things do not get attention over on TikTok. Anything that would really help, put the two sides together is definitely not going viral. But the stuff that is dividing us is. Meanwhile, the stuff that they put at the very top are not even controversial. Like, who cares about being controversial? It's controversial and one-sided. And one-sided to the point where it is weaponizing people's opinions against the other half. Like, if somebody does a video and says we need to take out the Don and this and that, and we should, roast him up to his nose, that is totally okay. That will go viral. But whereas if somebody says the same thing about JB, it's deleted. That kind of thing is pretty messed up if you ask me. Whereas other platforms have shown us in the past that you can have both sides. You can have the, Kathy, whatever her name, showing a fake Donald being done, and then you can have somebody over here doing the same thing to JB, and you can see both equally. I mean, if you're going to have nastiness, I would rather have people saying their nasty thoughts out loud and know it straight from their mouth, rather than anonymously they're saying it through somebody else or hiding it. If somebody is going to be the R word in real life, like they actually have nasty, unprovoked thoughts about other people based on who they are and what skin color they are, then I would rather see who they are and know exactly what they're saying, rather than putting them behind a closet, sitting next to them on the bus, never knowing that they are that. Just my opinion, though. And he extended it, in my opinion, is because this was set to basically go offline. Even though it could have went offline before this, it could have went offline after, into his presidency. It went offline on the 19th, or it was supposed to. And now anybody who doesn't know this or follow this is going to say, oh, the Don did this. all the youth will think, especially all the young ones that don't know anything about anything, they're going to go, oh, new president, no TikTok, president bad. I mean, if I was president, I would think about doing the same thing, at least for the first couple weeks, so I could focus on that and not people complaining about a stupid TikTok app. He gave it 75 days an extension, and again, we'll see what happens. So, Dex, I think that this whole extension was because now the people thought this whole thing was done to make him look good, but I'm like, no, I think that him extending it was definitely a good thing to make him look good, but I don't think the whole thing was done just to make him look good, which I see all over social media.
Well, I think the extension is all about him. I think that's, it was, look, at the end of the day, everybody, 7 million people make a living off of TikTok. 7 million Americans, they said, make a financial living off of TikTok. They were all going to lose their jobs. Or lose their income stream, as they were referring to it. So because of the new president, they get to keep it, at least for 90 days. And there's an opportunity potentially for it to survive. Now, his opinion and what he was saying publicly today is, look, the platform could be worth up to $1 trillion. Although I think they've only estimated its platform somewhere between 100 and 200 billion. But, he likes to throw big numbers around. But he goes, at the end of the day, it's my decision. And if I don't do it, it's worth zero. So if I'm willing to let them do it, then they can have money. And if they want to have money, then we should have half of it. And I have all the value. I'm the one who creates the value by signing this piece of paper. So we'll see if the deal will go through, as he said. He goes, he's no guarantee the deal will go through, but he said that he doesn't understand why it wouldn't from a business point of view, because it's money on the table. And I guess that ultimately comes down to, was it a true business opportunity for China from a financial standpoint, or was it a true weapon against America? If it's a weapon against America, then they don't care about the money, and they'll walk away from $1 trillion or $200 billion, whatever the actual value may be, because it's a weapon and they got caught and it's over with, and they'll go find and build another one. But if it truly is a money machine, and that money, which drives everything, even businesses in China, money is very, very important. It's probably one of the most important things. Then if that's the truth, then a deal will be met. I can't imagine they just walk away from 200 billion to $1 trillion.
Nobody would. Especially now with all of the things that are tied into it. James McGowan, thank you. Appreciate Dangerous Dax. ES, thank you. WIS Jens, Sparky's Run, See Her Think. Appreciate the highway. Mrs. Constitutional Right. People walking beside their running vehicles. Slap the head emoji. See Her Think. The Deal. Jacques Renault, hey, nice to see you. And by the way, thank you, Searcher 07, Nathaniel Wilson, Heidi Patrick, thank you for the super tonight. I appreciate that. Thank you, Kat. I appreciate the super. And then Carol, thank you. And then Neil Nelson, I believe you're top supporter tonight. Thank you for the memberships. I appreciate everybody that supports our independent channel here. Again, if you want to continue following us, and if you want to continue on for the jams session, then please feel free to stay in the chat. Otherwise, we will see you again tomorrow. Early show tomorrow because, Wednesday, I will have my double surgeries. So appreciate you guys. Much love. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. Have a good one. And thank you, Dex, for all your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
If you want to join us for the shoutro, it's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.